Coming to my hometown, Keta, today makes today a very special day for me. While I had hoped today's event would have happened over a year ago, a lot has happened since then, but we committed to the 60-bed maternity ward and neonatal center project for the Keta Municipal Hospital. Today is indeed a very special day for the sword-cutting ceremony at this site. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen. Amen.
This hospital is an important health facility delivering health services to several communities within and outside of the Keta municipality. As important as this facility is in the region, it is faced with several challenges.
The maternity ward formerly, the number of beds that is there, they are not enough. So we are happy that the MTN is coming to help the Keta Municipal Hospital to empower the maternity ward or the hospital.
According to the authorities, the current maternity ward has a bed capacity of only 20, which is inadequate for its over 3,000 maternity and over 680 NICU admissions every year. The high demand for services from the facility results in several patients not getting good services and have to endure harsh conditions to get through their pregnancy. This story is not an isolated one. This project is one of our 3 milestone projects as part of our 25th anniversary celebration from last year, and just happens to be the largest maternity block project we are undertaking since the inception of the MTN. It is also our most expensive project since the inception of the foundation, making this a very special sword-cutting event for us.
It looks like a dream, like impression to me that such a big project is being brought to us in Angola. I pay much gratitude to Mr. Selorm Adadevo. It was through his initiative that this project is being brought to his homeland. I'm appealing to all Angolan citizens occupy prominent places in Ghana to play a good part, like Mr. Selorm Adadevo, so that in the foreseeable future, Angola will be developed. It is a fact, not open to dispute, that what this gentleman has done has actually pleased everybody. And we hope and pray that those of you who have not come forward yet should come forward to assist us. I don't want to burden you so much than to say I'm expressing my gratitude to MTN and all those who are here assembled for the purpose of improving our state. Thank you.
I'm overexcited to see MTN helping the Keta Municipal Hospital. Thank you, MTN. Long live MTN. Long live Ghana.
I present to you this wonderful plaque to serve as a symbol of action for all that you have done for us.
Maternal health remains a staggering challenge, particularly in the developing world. Globally, it is said that a woman dies from complications in childbirth every minute. Here's a story highlighting MTN Ghana's commitment to helping reduce maternal mortality in Ghana.
My friend Blazer baby Mbewu General Hospital. Eye ture na na e bed no so. Enti me baby na ya na misro so beto for enti me nda. Me de ni two bed no so na me matena akondwane mu. Ma me benya back pain any head pain na.
Babies are a joy to have, but more often, childbirth is a source of frustration for many women across the globe. According to the 2015 Ghana Millennium Development Goals report, Ghana loses 144 mothers to every 100,000 live births at its health facilities, short of the global target of 54 per 100,000 live births. More collective efforts are required to meet the new Sustainable Development Goals target of reducing the global maternal mortality ratio to less than 70 per 100,000 live births by 2030.
The General Hospital is a district hospital and the biggest referral hospital in Tema Metropolis. And because it is the only referral hospital, we are overwhelmed with patients.
Honestly, the labor ward doesn't see an abrupt end of care. It's continuous. So in the morning you come and the ward is already full. The beds are not enough. In fact, we do an average of 25 to 30 deliveries in a day.
I came here to take the directorship appointment about 3 years ago. Before that, I was told that the women who had delivered were sleeping 2, 3, 4 on the bed.
MTN Ghana Foundation team heard an appeal in the media regarding the state in which the maternity block was.
This is a 40-bed maternity ward being put up by MTN Ghana Foundation for Tema General Hospital. The 40-bed comprises of 20-bed first stage or labor ward. The other part is a 20-bed lying-in ward. That means after delivery. We also have consulting room, a patient assessment room, nurses and doctors changing and restrooms. We have a visitors lounge, a kitchenette for the staff. And then we have 2 delivery wards and a theater.
This morning we are here to commission this beautiful, great edifice that you see here.
I'm happy because this important health facility is a true national asset. I also just learned that this is about the 52nd health facility which has been undertaken by the MTN Foundation. And I say MTN, there you go.
In the digital and information-based society we find ourselves, I'm confident that the telecom giant MTN will enhance its offering in e-health solutions.
On behalf of all in the department, I wish to reassure you and to state our promise. We will provide the best possible care to our patients using this facility that has been provided for us.
We are excited, all of us, all the staffs. And then as a ward in charge, I'm so happy.
We'll
continue to be committed to health, committed to education, committed to economic empowerment. And I can assure you that you'll continue to see such types of projects coming from the MTN Foundation going forward.
MTN Ghana Foundation, together for good.
Coming to my hometown, Keta, today makes today a very special day for me. While I had hoped today's event would have happened over a year ago, a lot has happened since then, but we committed to the 60-bed maternity ward and neonatal center project for the Keta Municipal Hospital. Today is indeed a very special day for the sword cutting ceremony at this site.
In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen. Amen. This hospital is an important health facility delivering health services to several communities within and outside of the Keta municipality. As important as this facility is in the region, it is faced with several challenges.
The maternity ward formerly, the number of beds that is there, they are not enough. So we are happy that the MTN is coming to help the Keta Municipal Hospital to empower the maternity ward or the hospital.
According to the authorities, the current maternity ward has a bed capacity of only 20, which is inadequate for its over 3,000 maternity and over 680 NICU admissions every year. The high demand for services from the facility results in several patients not getting good services and have to endure harsh conditions to get through their pregnancy. This story is not an isolated one. This project is one of our 3 milestone projects as part of our 25th anniversary celebration from last year, and just happens to be the largest maternity block project we are undertaking since the inception of the MTN. It is also our most expensive project since the inception of the foundation, making this a very special sword-cutting event for us.
It looks like a dream-like impression to me that such a big project is being brought to us in Angola. I pay much gratitude to Mr. Selorm Adadevo. It was through his initiative that this project is being brought to his homeland. I'm appealing to all Angolan citizens occupy prominent places in Ghana to play a good part, like Mr. Selorm Adadevo, so that in the foreseeable future, Angola will be developed. It is a fact, not open to dispute, that what this gentleman has done has actually pleased everybody. And we hope and pray that those of you who have not come forward yet should come forward to assist us. I don't want to burden you so much than to say I'm expressing my gratitude to MTN and all those who are here assembled for the purpose of improving our state. Thank you.
I'm overexcited to see MTN helping the Keta Municipal Hospital. Thank you, MTN. Long live MTN. Long live Ghana.
I present to you this wonderful plaque to serve as a symbol of action for all that you have done for us.
to commemorate the transition of the CEO of MTN Ghana to a higher role, reflecting on 5-ish years of work in the Ghana market. Selorm Adadevo, thank you so much for talking to us here at MTN Ghana.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everyone.
For a man who oversees a large company who is about to take a big job, you look very relaxed. What's the secret to your calmness?
hasn't sunk in yet.
Amazing stuff. But look, I recall the press release that I think Georgina or somebody sent to us somewhere in May, June 2018, announcing that you had been appointed CEO. I think you would be the second Ghanaian. Do you remember that period? What's your fondest thought around saying yes to MTN and actually coming down to take up that role 2018?
No, I do remember that period. I don't think anyone would forget it. It was quite a major event in my life and in my career. So, you know, if anybody had said I was going to leave Ghana in 2014 and come back in 2018 as the CEO of MTN, I don't think it would have been imaginable. So, you know, for me, this was a major milestone in my entire career. And I remember it quite vividly, actually. I mean, the discussions with MTN took a while. And at that time, you know, I had to make some decisions. So, I mean, obviously, you know, this was the preference for the decisions I had to make, but it wasn't quite straightforward. So I do remember that time a lot. And I mean, this was a role that I doubt anyone would have turned down for whatever reason, you know, and I was looking forward to it. But of course, it's also a very daunting task to take on the CEO of MTN. And I had to sort of rationalize in my head, you know, how this was going to work. You were coming in. I mean, there are a lot of different things that I had to think about. You know, I had to think about coming in as an external person. I believe I was the first CEO to come in to MTN Ghana who was not previously within the MTN leadership team. So that was a first. Yeah. And certainly, you know, the dynamics that I had to deal with were quite unique. So I thought about all of those and how I was going to settle in and do what I had to do as a leader and as a CEO of MTN. But of course, it also meant coming home, which was quite exciting. And, you know, that also has its own dynamics as well. So quite interesting time.
I see a contrast. So you worked with Millicom at the time and then Digicel all over the world. So you were coming from a different company to MTN, arguably smaller companies to a bigger company. But you're coming back home. Absolutely. So there was this duality there. What was the thought process like? What was your perception, for example, around what MTN was? Because you had never worked for MTN. And your first job in MTN is to come and run the Ghana office as an outsider coming back home. Just walk me a bit through that thinking around that period.
You know, it's quite interesting because when you're on the outside, what you perceive of MTN could be very interesting. And when I was at Millicom, of course, you know, my entire focus was to teach MTN a lesson.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Confessions of a telecommunications hitman. Wow.
It was really to demonstrate that, you know, you could shake up the big elephant, you know. And, you know, we did our part. You know, we did our part at the time. But I'd always felt that MTN had such great opportunity at its foot. And, you know, I'd love to be in there. I used to have discussions with some people whose names I can't disclose because they're in very strategic places right now. But I used to have discussions with them when I was in Haiti about what I would do if I became the CEO of MTN. And it was hypothetical at the time. But without understanding the ins and outs of MTN, the culture and all of that, you know, you imagine all these things on the outside until you come in. But I'll say the one big thing that was quite instrumental was just MTN had this force which was almost like a cocoon of team members, and to crack that cocoon from the outside was close to impossible. And a lot of us had wondered what happens in the cocoon. You know, what happens in that house, what happens in the cocoon. And I was eager to find out myself. So if there was nothing that was interesting about the role, that was the one thing that was interesting to me. You know, I was now going to get into the cocoon, and I was going to understand all the things I'd been trying to understand from the outside. So,
what about the Africa pitch? Because I recall you talk about working in the UK, 4 months, 400 applications, one job, couldn't drive. Then you worked all over. Was Africa a big thing? Because I've studied abroad as well, and there's this debate about should I come back home or should I stay abroad? Was the fact that MTN is an Africa-focused company big for you, and how did that feature in your thinking?
No, it was very big, extremely big. I mean, all my life, you know, I've always said, and I remember when I had my first email account, which was a Yahoo account, and I learned how to put these permanent signatures in my account. And I had a saying which basically said, you know, we Africans, you know, always complain about Africa, but we're not willing to put ourselves in Africa to help Africa progress. And it was more eloquently described. I can't remember exactly how I put it, but it was at the bottom of my email. I mean, I've attempted to come back to Africa a lot of times. When I was in the UK, I came back to do something in the ISP space. I helped set up 2 telecoms companies. So I've done a lot on the continent, but none of them was permanent. I kept coming in and going back out, coming in and going back out. Central Africa, I did some work there. So Africa has always featured, and you know, I've probably moved back to this continent more times than most people in this place. I think I've moved back to the continent 5 times in my career, something like that.
Yeah.
I kept coming back because this was important to me. So MTN's Africa presence, absolutely big, but not only that, you know, MTN has an Africa presence, but it's also a globally recognized brand. And when I was at Digicel, I remember we did a case study on MTN to look at how a successful telecoms company operates. So there are all these things that made MTN very special, and you know, apart from the fact that it's the leading company in the country, and I mean, I'm sure the aspiration of most people working in telecoms outside of MTN are to come and work for MTN, and I was one of them. So,
final point on this, in this junction, what was the most surprising thing about MTN for you then, as an outsider coming in, when you got in? What surprised you most about this behemoth when you entered?
Look, I mean, there were a lot of things. I mean, I think the big one for me really was, you know, I mean, I had a chance to work in very small, nimble, agile companies. You know, Millicom was an innovation of itself. You know, it was driven largely by very quick innovation. Speed to market was incredible. And if you thought Millicom was high in speed to market, then you go to Digicel, which was on like a cocktail of steroids. I mean, things were happening in minutes, not hours. And I would say the biggest was a change of pace at MTN. And here we'll talk about MTN's pace of getting things to market. We talk about MTN's leadership in innovation.
Yeah.
But it's because there is a vision that allows a lot of time for that to happen. Whereas in other places I had worked, you know, you can come up with a vision yesterday and the product is out tomorrow. So it was a very short timeline compared to MTN's cycle of getting things to the market. So that was one big one.
Yeah.
But then the second one was just how close the family is, right? I mean, I've worked in places where there's a closeness, but MTN's was different. And it maybe explained the cocoon and how difficult it was to crack at the time. I mean, if you're an MTN, you're loved, you're everything. You have a big family here. And when you're outside, you almost feel like, man, even if you had brothers and sisters here, you probably have to give it up until you join MTN. So the sense of family was incredible. And, you know, it's probably one of the biggest strengths that MTN has today.
And I'm sure because of your previous work in mobile financial services, and of course your finance and technology background as well, did that in a sense give you what the expectation was? Because this was an industry in transition as well. Coming in 2018, was your experience an implied target? It's like this company is transitioning from just voice data into MFS. And we need a guy who can do quick things fast within that space. Was that in the brief, or that was more like a given?
No, look, I mean, my brief was, and maybe, you know, the CEO should be here to see how things have changed. At the time, the group CEO was Rob Shooter. And I remember my interview with him where he said, look, I'd always positioned myself as a transformation guy. You know, the guy who comes in and does a transformation. That's what I did at Millicom, taking their financial services business from number 3, number 4 in the market to number 1. And I went to Digicel. Of course, Haiti was a declining market, managed to turn it around, but also establish the largest and most successful financial services business in the Caribbean. So my CV was littered with transformation, and Rob said to me, you know, I don't know if you're the right guy because everything is fine in Ghana. We don't need a transformation. We just need someone hold the steer and steady the ship. That's all we need, you know? Then I said to him, I can do that too. Because I wanted a job, you know?
Yeah.
But when I came in, you know, I sort of said, look, there is a big need for us to take that next step in its evolution. And maybe my technology background and my journey, I mean, digital was very advanced in digital. It was very sophisticated on agile and things just, you know, pace of moving things ahead. So maybe from that exposure and experience, I saw an opportunity to transform and to move the business forward that perhaps wasn't obvious if you just looked at the results of the business before.
Yeah.
And that became sort of my objective. I did a pitch to the leadership to say, I really do think there's an opportunity here on digital, on modernization of our infrastructure, on going into things like fixed wireless access, which ended up becoming things like TurboNet.
Yeah.
I saw the opportunity to do things that perhaps wasn't so obvious before.
What I didn't tell you was that before you came in, we agreed on a theme for the program, and the 3 keywords were leadership, transformation, and excellence. So it's funny you said you are and I haven't seen your CV, by the way, the transformation guy. So I think you guys should put your hands together for yourselves. You've got the T right. And this is a conversation here at MTN's head office. We're talking to outgoing CEO of MTN Ghana, Selorm. He's been here for 5 years. He's going on to bigger things within the group, and we're chatting to him on his reflections on those 3 issues: leadership, transformation, and excellence. So you jump in, you come in June, and in less than a year, the company is listing. So it's like you are thrown at the deep end. Just walk me through some of the big ticket things. From us, from the outside, the listing was big, because this is the biggest company in Ghana, and now you're basically saying, come and join us. Any reflections on that process? What went well, what didn't go well?
Yeah, no, look, it was, I mean, I joined third week in June, 20th of June was my first day here. And the listing started in May. So the process, I'm sure there were all these other marketing things that would have happened even before May. And, you know, we were due to close the subscription period around July. So I was right bang in the middle. And I remember when I came in, I mean, there was very little said about what I had to do in terms of the IPO. And then, you know, but I was lucky. I mean, I was quite fortunate. You know, sometimes you get into situations and you just realize, you know, God had a plan for you, right? When I was in the US, I did a lot of mergers and acquisition consulting, which meant I spent a lot of time with banks and companies trying to either be bought or sold, right? I did mostly sell side, but so companies were trying to be sold. And as a result, you will get involved in pitching and trying to sell the company. MTN was selling, so at the time they were also in a sell side deal, but this time listing that on the market, on the stock exchange. So I was fairly comfortable with the process, which was probably unique to my background and wouldn't have been the same for other people. And it could have been very scary to come in and within weeks having to talk about an IPO and trying to, you know, list on the market and figuring out how to take the business forward. So, you know, from that perspective, I was quite fortunate, but it was very daunting to come in the middle of an IPO and then have to lead it to the end. In the end, we listed on 5th of September. And, you know, so I saw it through till that point. And I believe after that, we had interviews about the outcome and the results. The one thing I would say, though, was that the process was also largely in place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my job was not to drive a process. The process was in place, it was running smoothly, everything was going well. And I did very little with that. I think it was really after the listing that my involvement became significant.
So I would say that for the first major thing that you owned, if I said it was the launch of LTE Advanced Technology 4G Plus in 2019, that would be your baby, as in fully begun, executed by you.
Sure.
Correct? How was that?
It was exciting. I mean, one of the things I learned, you know, as a young business person was you always want to figure out what's your biggest driver of success, right? And I usually would look at the 3-year landscape to try to figure out how to grow the business. And I remember I spoke to the current CTO, Thomas, around July 2018. At the time, the CTO was leaving and he was going to come in. And I still remember this discussion very well because I didn't want anyone to come and argue about our technology strategy because I figured we needed to go into a particular direction. So the two things I asked him, one of them was about modernizing our network and his appetite to modernize. And then the second one was around fixed wireless access, which is, TurboNet, and where we ended up again, because there were a lot of debates internally about why you want to go down that path, if it was a necessary path. And I just wanted to make sure we could explore those things. And he was extremely bullish. He had actually done some of these things where he was coming from in Zambia. So, we clicked, and I knew we could together do some of the things we had set out to do. So 4G Plus was the first one, which was, how do we take the network performance one level higher? Because if you secure your network, it really simplifies your life. You can do a lot of things on the commercial side that you couldn't even think of if you didn't have the infrastructure to support it. And without a strong network, honestly, you're in a lot of trouble. So I figured the first place to focus was technology, and leverage my background, coming from a technology background, having worked in this space, to maybe create this opportunity and then move to try to figure out how do you do your commercial, how do you come up with your commercial strategy to support the technology advancement you are putting in place. So 4G Plus was a big deal for us.
There's a sense in which MTN has been punished for its success. This highly controversial, significant market player thing, which happened under your watch. So in a sense, you made MTN so successful that the regulator thought that we had to rein you in so that your pricing couldn't go beyond a certain level, below a certain level, and that kind of thing. What's your reflection on that? Because again, you are Ghanaian. To acquire even the 4G license, the whole process, right? Any disappointments there that, look, here's a Ghanaian running this large company in a period of transition, and we're doing very well. But the system seems to think you have some unfair advantage, and it's almost punitively pricing a social good that you're going to use to unlock technology. I mean, I'm sure that was a bit difficult for you to take, wasn't it?
No, it was. I mean, it's, being declared dominant is not a great thing. It's never a great thing for leadership. I mean, I have to say the sentiment would have started before I joined, but maybe it got a lot more pronounced after I joined for whatever reason. From my perspective as a Ghanaian, I always think of all of this from the viewpoint of how do we use our technology and the investments we put into these specific business areas to drive the type of growth we need in the country, right? And if you look at it from that perspective, then the question is collectively, right? And there are all these debates about, is the market crowded? Do we have too many players in the market and all of that? But at the same time, when you look at the opportunity that's untapped, your question is, there's huge opportunity still in the market, even today as we speak. So why wouldn't the policy steer towards taking the opportunities to grow the entire pie? Because what happens with that is Ghana becomes a much more sophisticated country from a technology standpoint. It becomes more competitive within the sub-region, but also becomes more attractive to the types of investments we're seeking to drive other sectors of the country, right? So if I look at health tech, I look at med tech, I look at agri tech, these are all technology-based specialist areas that can transform industries. And none of that work is happening today because we're confined to the telecom space, and we're saying that we need to limit the investment so that the industry creates or gets a certain balance, which on the one hand is very true, but on the other hand, you're giving up the economic potential of an entire country that could be enhanced through technology if you approached it a different way. So for me, it's always been, how do we get this country to become that special beacon within the sub-region? And how can technology be the fulcrum or the driver of that beacon? And for me, that's still an opportunity that we have in front of us.
I was listening to a CEO recently talk about how in their company, this is a global CEO, he personally has worked less on things to do with his business. He's been dealing with political, economic, and social things. Question to you, do prospective CEOs underestimate the importance of those? I mean, technically you're great. You're a technology guy, you understand your finance, you know your numbers, marketing is solid, HR is great. But if you become a CEO of a large company, whether it's Haiti, in Ghana, Nigeria, do people underestimate the regulatory, the political, the things that have nothing to do with essentially what you learned in school, right? Mm-hmm. Talk to me a bit about how you had to grow into that and how you leveled up in that space.
Yeah, it's a very good point. To be honest, in my interviews, when I was asked, what are my weak points, those are some of the things I highlighted, because I've always felt that I can drive strategy. I have ideas that can drive growth in the business. I just need a room to do it. And everything else is a distraction, and that was my viewpoint. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with some of these pressures in my other roles. When I was in Haiti, I didn't have as much of an external environment impact that I had here, or that I've had here. But so in essence, you're able to spend the time to do what you enjoy, what you know, and grow in that space. So I've grown from 1 to maybe 4 or 5 out of 10 dealing with this market and the different pressures and the complexity of the Ghana market. I mean, the Ghana market is, a microcosm of complexity on all dimensions, from regulatory, political, social, economic, everything, right? So I've had to learn very quickly. I'm still learning. I would never even begin to think that I have learned enough in this space. We learn, and we're always talking about different approaches to things. It's been an accelerated growth for me. But one of the things that has helped me is I've also, when you're going through these things, making decisions can be very difficult, right? And I just decided to base my decisions on a very small set of principles, and if I stick by it, we just keep going. And sometimes, you upset people, sometimes you don't, but it makes your decision making a lot more streamlined, and at least from my perspective, a lot more effective as well.
I want you to elaborate on that. So you're CEO of Digicel in Haiti.
Yeah.
You're Black African in a Caribbean, predominantly Black French-speaking country, which was in turmoil, and you survived that. So it's it's on paper easier to come back to Ghana, where you were born, when you studied, to come and run MTN, right? But there's a sense in which being an expert in your own country can be confusing and can be tougher. Because I remember 2021, I went to interview somebody in one of the Volta region towns, and the chief says, when you go on air, tell Selorm to come home. And when he comes, tell him that the network in his village is not working well. Do you get me? And he was almost like he knows your father's house and you are some small boy. And I should come in. I was like, what are you talking about? So talk to me about, even though people feel, we are bringing a Ghanaian, there's a sense in which it's actually much tougher because the expectations are more, and you have to balance what the company wants with just some local nuance of knowing that, Charlie, this is my country, right? And people's expectations of you is higher. Just talk a bit about that.
Look, there are 2 or 3 different sides to this. The first side is, for starters, a lot of these large companies haven't trusted Ghanaians to lead these businesses because they are concerned. That was one of the reasons I left Millicom, of course, right? They didn't believe that, they were ready to trust the business into the hands of a Ghanaian. So there's the one part which is we Ghanaians have a responsibility to demonstrate that we can actually lead such companies and we can lead them well. For me, that's one part, right? If I was giving back to my country, then being able to demonstrate that Ghanaians have the capability, they have the intellectual capacity, the leadership credentials and profile to lead companies like this, extremely important, because this will open doors for other Ghanaians in other large companies as well, or at the very least encourage other people not to discount what Ghanaians can do. But the point you make on, how tough it can also be as a Ghanaian, there are also 2 sides. Because as a Ghanaian, there are certain conversations you can have. And the trust triangle is a lot tighter to Ghanaians. People tell you a lot more than they would if you weren't Ghanaian. And you tend to experience the reality from the parade. right? And if you're non-Ghanaian, then you see the parade a lot. And your sense of reality will be the parade, but behind that is a lot of complexity and a lot of things that are not said. And that's what I went through in Haiti, right? When I was in Haiti, of course, everywhere I go, everybody's smiling at me and receiving me well, and everything was fine. But behind all of that, it wasn't fine. But people just couldn't say it. Whereas here, at least you understand what's not fine, and it may be distasteful, but at the very least, you have the opportunity to do something about it now or in the future. So there are multiple sides to all of this, but there is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure because people are more familiar with you. Your stakeholders are also a lot. I mean, relatives, friends, everything. Everybody's upset with you because when they call you, you don't pick up. And then they're like, since you became CEO, you don't mind us anymore. But nobody realizes that your time has changed significantly. So it's not the same. And you can't be the same person you were before you got the appointment. But people expect everything to be the same. Right? So those pressures are real. You don't get that when you're an expert CEO. But, these are some of the things that I will take as important development experiences. Because as a person, I've also grown in the process of how to manage these types of pressures so that I can at least maintain my sanity on a day-to-day basis. But it is a lot of pressure as a leader.
Let's talk about financial performance. When you were announced to the media, they told us that your expertise was, of course, technology industry, innovation, but you could drive P&L, EBITDA improvement. They knew you could bring in those dollars. Are you able to tell us the direction of the curve? Let's use the top line, say revenue. When you took over, where was the company? Don't forget, within your period, there's been COVID as well, which brought a lot of people down. Just give us a sense of financial performance in the 5 years.
No, look, financial performance has been good. And, I'm quite happy with what we have delivered as a team and as a company. And it takes, like they say, it takes a village to educate somebody. But let me talk a little bit about my philosophy around performance, because it's quite important before I talk about what the results have been. I've always believed, typically when you get a CEO job, you know your horizon is 2 to 3 years, and then you're going to move on. That's the typical, right? I mean, today, when I leave here, I'll be 5 years and 9 months, which would be the longest serving MTN Ghana CEO in the history of the business. Right?
Wow.
Thank you. So for me, and this has been the first time I have spent this long in any role or in any company in my entire life as well. So that says something. But my philosophy has always been, and something I had to prove to myself, that taking a medium-term view of performance is absolutely important. Because what it does is you focus more on structures and how businesses can run themselves. When you take a short-term view, you go for very quick revenue-generating initiatives that may not be in the interest of the business in the medium term. So you can achieve success, but that success will never be sustainable in the medium term. But because people know they won't be there when things become ineffective, it's okay, right? But, I mean, I came in thinking, look, my style has always been, when I went to Millicom, when I went to Digicel, it had always been build structures. You may suffer at the beginning because people are looking for quick performance. So you have to adopt this dual track approach of what are the short-term wins, but how do I keep my eye on this medium-term structural performance instruments that I'm going to put in place. And that's what I believe we've tried to do over the last, 5.5+ years. And the results have been really good. Doing the network modernization obviously means you've created a fundamental change to your infrastructure that allows you to grow over time. Creating a commercial framework and a mindset around how you handle commercial initiatives also allows you to grow the business in a certain way. Trying to figure out how to structurally change your cost basis so you're not just growing top line, but you're also reducing the cost to generate every incremental CD of revenue. Very important. These are the things that create a business that can last long. If you're not becoming more efficient every day, you'll get to a point where your business will collapse. You could be performing well, but at some point, that good performance will start to erode. So doing all of that has led us to the results that we have. And first of all, before I talk about the results, I have to thank the team. They've been exceptional. And this is maybe the one big thing that when I walk out of MTN Ghana, I would have to keep reminding myself.
Let's put for the team.
Nothing happens without a team, and they've been exceptional in this. What we've achieved over the last 5.5 years or so is a 4x growth in revenue.
Wow.
And about a 6x growth in profitability.
Serious.
And that's significant. That's
4x growth in revenue, 6x in profitability over less than 6 years.
Yeah.
COVID inclusive.
COVID inclusive, yeah.
You are not giving me average. So you're saying year on year, 2018, 2019, 2020. So you did better in 2020 than 2019.
I did better, and it depends. What does that mean?
On the two, you gave me two top lines: revenue, profitability.
Yeah.
Would you say that every year the curve has been northwards?
Yeah. So look, the curve has been northwards every year.
Every year.
Every year. So,
wow.
So coming into the business, we've had to think about how to grow the business strategically every year. And that growth, thankfully has been positive. Now, COVID was a period where I guess everyone would have expected infrastructure companies to grow aggressively. But what people forget is you're limited by your capacity, right? At the same time, you're also limited by the supply chain issues that happened during COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that, and because we're already operating at close to capacity, we probably could have grown a lot more, but we couldn't because we had these physical constraints that limited our ability to bring in new capacity to the extent that we could. And we had to rely on things like free spectrum from the NCA, if you recall. So thanks to them for enabling us to be able to continue to drive business and make sure that the country stays productive. But we didn't grow as much as we could have. We grew better in 2019, if I recollect right.
Did COVID bring to the fore the importance of what you did? Because I recall no meetings, nobody's going anywhere, and every single thing, including possibly cabinet meetings, will depend on the service you offer. That must have been incredibly big, but also high pressure.
No, it was. I mean, I don't think we've seen the pressure on the network grow so much in such a short time frame. That was obviously the biggest risk to our business. Is our network going to fall apart? Right? So we saw a lot of growth. I mean, I don't think we've seen that type of growth in 1 year in terms of traffic demand ever before, at least not in my time. So that was crazy. What COVID also taught us was perhaps our expectations of how much capacity was required to run an economy like Ghana was not ambitious enough. And the permanent changes that COVID brought in terms of people's adoption of certain tools, working online, all these things also changed. And there was a permanence that COVID has left behind. Even though COVID is largely behind us, there was a permanence that it left behind on people's behaviors and people's appreciation for how to use the internet effectively for productive work.
You said something in a recent interview that in the COVID period, one of the things you had to learn was what to give up. Because as the company faced those constraints, you can't do all things. I thought that was pretty profound. Can you elaborate? What did you mean by that?
Yeah, look, when COVID started, there were all these things that were going on. There's life. Your first priority is people are getting sick and people are in hospital, they're struggling. There's life. And health and wellness became extremely important. Then, of course, you have your business, which to a large extent has been disrupted because your plans couldn't be delivered. You can't import equipment when you want to anymore. And you're at the mercy of, a supply chain that's pretty much non-functional. Movement has ground to a halt, but at the same time, demand is going up. There were also a lot of regulatory and political issues at the time that we had to deal with. And everybody was under a lot of stress because we're all learning about this disease and virus that nobody could explain, but at the same time, everything was happening. The other interesting thing was where we had our capacity was not where people were anymore, because we built all our capacity where the businesses were. Now people are working from home. And you can't just carry a site and go and put it in someone's house. So there are a number of things. So what I meant by that thing was, in a crisis, and this is something that I had to learn when I was in Haiti the hard way after the hurricane, was when you're in a crisis, one of the biggest decisions you need to make is what to focus on so you can do the best job on what you focus on. If you try to do everything, you're going to fail because it's an imperfect situation, it's chaotic at the time, and therefore you will fail, and you'll probably fail in the places that are most important. So if you can really narrow down and say, look, I'm going to give up A, B, and C, and then just focus on 2 or 3 things. Our primary focus was how do we keep our network up? That was it. And that helped us focus our attention to that, working with our vendors, and which are here today. It was all about how do we keep the network up, because there's a consequence not only to the business and people want to go onto the internet, but to the economy. The most effective way of people staying productive was through the internet.
Yeah.
So if we couldn't keep it up, the entire Ghana or the entire country becomes at risk. And that for us was the big thing. So that's what I meant by, making sure that you were able to give up certain things and just focus, because there were things that were more important than others.
Wow. Yeah. This is Time with Selorm, a conversation with the outgoing CEO of MTN Ghana, Selorm Adadivo, who after 5 years and 9 months of working in Ghana is on to bigger things. We'll talk about where he's going shortly. My name is Bernard Avle. I'm here before a crowd that's not applauding. They need to applaud a bit more. I'll tell you who we have here, but in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to turn to them to ask a few questions of Selorm. The sub-theme we've given ourselves is leadership, transformation, and excellence. Spoken a bit about excellence, a lot about transformation. Let's talk a bit about leadership. I was telling somebody, most CEOs and people who have power, to even enter their presence, you are talking to a big man. There's something they call big manism. You have to go through 6 secretaries. You have to be scanned. You put your phone in the somewhere, By the time you get to the person, you're already demoralized and you know that you're a small boy. And I walk into your office, I get an embrace, and you're like, how are you keeping? How are the kids? So it's a different approach to you, right? So what's your, I don't want to say leadership philosophy or style, whatever, but how do you see leadership? Because your team, and I'm not saying to say your team is really rigorous. Georgina called me too many times. They're going through, they really work hard. They don't want anything to go wrong, but you're very cool. So what's going on here? What's going on here?
I don't know, but I've thought about my leadership style a lot. I remember when I first came through the doors at MTN, someone said to me that my leadership style isn't going to work. And I never really worked with a person much, so it was something that I thought about, but I thought, but how do you know my leadership style? Just because you see my disposition once or twice and the way I talk doesn't mean that I'm ineffective.
Yeah.
Right? So I noted it, and I thought maybe, in a few months, maybe years, I would have to change my style, but let me start what I know, and then we take it from there. Basically, look, for me, if you show people respect, and if you allow people to understand what the standard that's acceptable is, and give them the space to drive themselves to that standard, I believe you'll get the best out of people. That's what I've tried to do. It hasn't always worked. In fact, there are times where we've had to have very tough discussions because the standard seems to have been lost on people. But ultimately, if people can be motivated intrinsically, you will get the best out of them. If you wake up in the morning coming to work and yourself, you're thinking, I really want to achieve this today. Nobody's asking you to achieve it, but you've told yourself, this is what I want to achieve today. That's the best place you can be, and that's the best place your team can be, because they are self-motivated and they're intrinsically motivated. But if you have to go with a stick telling people what they need to deliver every day, you won't get the best out of people. So people need a pride in what they do. And I mean, I've tried to bring this. I don't know if I've been successful, and I can't really say what you're seeing is as a result of that. But that's what I've tried to do. That's what I believe in. And my role is really to support. So when there are tough problems or tough decisions, I see myself as part of the team to bring my experience, to bring my intellectual capability to the team, to help solve the problem so that we can take the next step forward. So from that perspective, it's been very positive, and I've seen a lot of growth in where we started from as a team to where we are today. I mean, an enormous level of growth from a leadership standpoint, from an ownership standpoint, from a responsibility and drive standpoint. And MTN was already a successful company before I came.
Yeah.
So, it's just going through a different phase of growth and what's required. And once I leave, that next stage would require something else, which would also require its own transformation and change to be able to deal with the next phase of growth for the business. So.
You're going into a group position. We understand it's commercial. And you're joining Eben Asante on the group executive committee. So 2 questions in one. So there are 2 Ghanaians on this group executive committee. And for a small country in Africa, Ghana is not that small. It's significant to have 2 Ghanaians on that. What are your thoughts about that and your work with Eben? And number 2, in that space, what are you looking forward to in this new role, commercial, for the group?
Yeah. No, look, I mean, I do think, and one of the things I've said in the past, if you look at Ghana's track record within the MTN group, and Ghana's long-time contributions towards the MTN group, it has been enormous. It's been incredible. So to have 2 Ghanaians on the group exco, for me, really confirms the contribution of Ghana over time.
Okay.
I mean, I think this should have happened a long time ago, right? So, my only criticism will be it's come much later than it should have, because Ghana has been significant within the MTN group for a long time.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. I mean, obviously, Eben is my current boss, and we have to work and strategize and do things. Our roles are different when I get onto the group exco. But at the end of the day, our objectives for MTN Group would remain the same. We all want to drive growth and make sure the business can be the best business forward and can contribute towards Africa's progress. That's really what we're all fighting for. So I see a lot of our experience in Ghana, understanding the nuances of a market like Ghana, bringing a lot of richness to the discussions at the exco level, and bringing also operational exposure to some of the decisions that we make at a group level. And that's what I would see us doing. But it will be an exciting time, but a challenging time as well. It will be a very different role from what I'm used to. So,
before I take questions, I was looking at the photo they sent when they brought out your press release in 2018. Clean shaven, no white, talked a bit faster. Now you talk much slower and there's a lot of white beard. It must be, I'm not sure where I'm going with this question, but I feel like you've grown, and it's also come at a cost, because I'm not saying you're slow up there, but you're more, you were more, yo, when you see me, yo, Bernard, that's like, yo, Bernard. So I see. So is it just the physical thing? Is it that you're above 45, so you have to take it easy? What's going on? What's with the white beard on the side?
No, I told you that, coming from digital, things happen in minutes and hours. And it's a little longer at MTN, so I've had to slow down a bit, I've had to slow down a bit. No, but look, I've grown a lot.
Yeah.
I've grown a lot, and MTN has stretched me in different ways, I've always been, I worked, a lot of my career, I worked on things that I was in 100% control of, right? As a consultant, it's knowledge-based consulting. So if I know something, then I can sell something. And you're in control. Whereas when you work in an operation, your control starts to reduce. But when the external environment impact is so high, as we've talked about, then what you control is even smaller. And it's a very different leadership, I guess, it's a very different leadership test for anyone in that sort of environment. So I've had to learn how to deal with an environment like this, and how to change my own style to suit the environment. And that has presented a lot of growth from a development standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, and also to let me understand what matters in sustaining growth in these businesses. MTN didn't get this far only based on its operational focus. You have to work with governments, you have to work with policyholders, you have to work with advocacy groups, you have to lead from a different perspective. And that's something that I'm taking away today. And your job is not only the operation, the technical competency, you have to lead in other areas so that the external environment inures to your benefit to be able to drive the initiatives you need to drive for the sustenance of the business.
Please put your hands together for Selorm. This is Time with Selorm, and it's a conversation on leadership transformation and excellence, marking close to 6 years of leading MTN Ghana. Is going on to bigger things. We are very privileged to have an audience of highly respected people. We have members of the Ghana Executive Committee. I won't mention the names, but if you can give me a wave, if you're a member of the big guys in MTN group in Ghana, just give me a wave. Give me a wave. Give me a wave. Wonderful. We're also privileged to be joined by very significant people in Ghana. We have the GJA President, Albert Jumfo. Give us a wave there. Thank you, sir. CIMG Ghana President, Mr. Jekum, is here with us. Media Foundation for West Africa, the Chief Executive, Suleiman Brahima, is here. We also have the lead for esports Ghana, Maximus Ametogo, technology guy, here with us as well. Long-term journalist is Nana now, so he's here with us as well. Put your hands together for him. Communications consultant, a journalist we look forward to talking to all the time. We're also surrounded by quite a number of media practitioners. We have another Suleiman, this is Suleiman Mahama. And we also have Samuel Dowona. We have a couple of friends from Graphic. All the journalists give us a wave as well. And then the CEO of ASEPA is also here, one of the CSOs, and Ni Odate Lamte as well. So quite a number of people in here. I don't know how I'm going to play this. I'm just going to make a mic available, and then we will take comments or questions or just rebukes, whatever you want to say to Selorm. So who's going to set the ball rolling? Samuel, like when you think about a journalist in technology, Samuel Dowona is just incredible. I remember interviewing him a few months ago about the evolution of the sector, and it was as if he lived through the whole thing. He was talking about how it was Scancom to Space Phone to whatever. So Samuel, I'll give you the first question. Just talk to Selorm. Tell him you're happy he's going, or you're happy you're not happy. Samuel Dowona will take our first question.
Thank you very much. Bernard, you have to mention my name. Well, 5 years of Selorm, I just have to say congratulations. I think he's done very well. I think my first experience with Selorm was at Millicom, and that was the first time I experienced that you can buy airtime for somebody on another network.
Okay.
With your network. So like at Tigo. And I don't know whether that thing went to market though from Tigo at the time. But Selorm introduced it to me. Selorm said, I can buy MTN airtime for you with my Tigo. Wow. Let's try it now.
Wow.
And he tried it. It was like magic for me at the time. But I don't know whether from that point on it went, wow. Of course, because we can put our hands together. Today is very common. Today you can go anywhere. But I think that was my first, before he even went to digital, I think.
Wow.
Right. So Selorm has always been a very powerful technology person.
Wow.
So for me, I would say 5 years and 9 months, congratulations, and we are very, 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 very proud of you.
Yeah.
We are so proud of you that we have, when Eben took over MTN Ghana, what he did, we were proud. We were like, Ghanaian has taken over now, and look at where he's taking the company. So we thought that, hey, who is going to step into Eben's shoes?
Yeah.
And then Selorm comes in, and you can see it. I mean, the numbers are there. You saw the top line. 4 times revenue, 6 times profit. I think there is something wonderful, and we are very proud of you that going out of Ghana to the group. And very soon we are going to hope, because now I think the group CEO is a Zimbabwean, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully we are going to have a Ghanaian at the time very soon. And all the signs are there. You can see that the Ghanaians challenge.
They are rising.
One day we'll get there.
Yeah.
Now, so 2 questions.
Oh, I was going to say this is the first time that someone is
asking
a question. And I was going to say thank you for that. And they just destroyed that with 2 questions.
So I dropped. Gina came to me and said that today you have to ask questions. I said that, what questions at all am I going to ask Selorm?
Yeah.
I can't ask Selorm questions now because the guy has done marvelously well.
Yeah.
You understand? But still 2 questions.
All right, go ahead.
So my first question is this. Gina said I shouldn't ask a controversial question. Maybe what's the definition of controversial questions? Selorm, here is this. So you have seen the company through the SMP period, and even within that period, you are talking about 4 times revenue, 6 times upon everything that is being done. Somebody from somewhere had a conversation with somebody from somewhere, and the person said that, look, Selorm is a technologist, he's an engineer. He will think through this thing, and by the time they are implementing it, it will be almost like, in fact, it will be almost like useless. And we are seeing the results now. We've seen that this thing, Charlie,
it didn't hamper them. They rather did better.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask Selorm what is the strategy, but the question I will ask is, if you were the CEO of the other telcos that were supposed, quote unquote, benefit from this, what would you have?
Thank you.
What is your advice for them?
Thank you.
What do you have?
Thank you. I will take a couple of questions.
Is it a controversial question?
It's a good question. Yes. Hand the mic to the next guy. While we do that, I want to acknowledge a few more people. I want to acknowledge the Huawei team. If you give us away the Huawei team, thank you very much. Edwin Wang is the MTN card account director. Can you give us a wave? Thank you, sir. Chad Wei is the deputy managing director. Chad is also here. Thank you. And let me properly acknowledge Nana Kwesi Apinting. Thank you, sir, for being here as well. All right, next question.
Okay, Charles. Selorm, I know you agree with me that the terrain is very combative. What kind of shoes are you leaving for your successor?
Is it Kambu or sandals? So Charles Benenyokan is with the Daily Graphic. And we'll take a third question.
Okay, Eugene Davis, Business 24 Investment Times. Congratulations to you, Selorm. So my question, I have 2 questions. So the first one, is Ghana's tax system fostering or hindering telcos development? And the last one, the subject of AI has become very topical. In your view, how would AI interact with and affect the telcos industry?
Thank you.
And how should Ghana approach it?
So we've taken the journalist round. The other rounds would be non-journalists. I'll come back to journalists. So first question is Samuel, SNP, how you dealt with it. Charles, what kind of shoes you're leaving. And then double barrel from Eugene, tax system, and AI, if you can take those.
Okay. So actually, someone doesn't remember the first time we met. Because the first time we met, I just taken over at Tigo, and I decided to rationalize our product portfolio. And he came to interview me, and he asked me a question. He said, everybody is adding more products. You alone. You are reducing them. How do you expect to progress? That was the question he asked me. He doesn't remember it.
Yeah. Samuel, you never changed.
But anyway, not much has changed, Samuel. But, thanks for your question. So look, I mean, if I was the CEO of the other telcos, what would I have done during SMP? There are a few things. There are a few things that I think are important when we think about the current industry and what needs to happen, right? Telecoms is an infrastructure-heavy, investment-heavy industry. And nothing we can do will change that, Even if you exhaust network sharing opportunities to their limit, you will still need to put capacity into the network. That's a given. So the only thing that a CEO on the other side can do is to determine what their investment appetite is and where that investment should go.
Yeah.
Like I said, today we complain about opportunities that are not being taken within the industry. Home penetration in Ghana is less than 10%, 7% maybe for high-speed broadband internet, maybe even less. But that's our best estimate. So there's a whole 90% plus of home internet penetration. That's an opportunity. There are other opportunities. We focus a lot on rural connectivity and all of that, but there are several other opportunities. You can go down, like I talked about, specialized areas. We have all these private networks for mines and oil rigs. All these things are opportunities that in other environments or other markets are being taken. We talk about financial services and the integration of that into the core business. Again, there are different ways to approach financial services, right? Today we've decided, you have to be an MTN customer to be a financial services player. But there are people that are not telcos who are building SIM or network agnostic financial services solutions. So why can't the others also do the same? Nothing is forcing you to limit your financial services investment to only people on your SIM.
Yeah.
But we've come into all these things from a particular place. This is how M-Pesa did it. But today, if you look at the dynamic, that should inform your strategy, it should inform your approach. And these are all things that can be considered when you're on the other side. But ultimately, it's an issue of investment and the appetite to invest in some of the key areas. The second question was
what shoes, Charles?
What shoes am I leaving behind? And I think the easiest way to answer this question is, like I said, my style has always been to go for medium-term outlook when it comes to our strategy and how to drive and grow the business. So to go medium-term means you build instruments, you build structures that can regenerate. Okay, and even if you think about even our personal lives, a lot of people will say, look, how do I create wealth in my personal lives? And they invest in things. And, we saw all the things that happened to all these quick investments. They give you 10% every month. We saw what happened. NAM1, for example. But ultimately, if you build for the medium term, your decision making is very different. So I'm hoping that the shoes that I'm leaving are structures that did not exist when I first joined the business. And of those that existed, an enhanced state of those, so that a new CEO can build on what has already been done. And hopefully we don't run the business like countries where a lot of people feel, look, I need to change everything to build my personal credit for what I brought in. We have to adopt the mindset of building on top of what has already been done. And when I came in, that was my mindset. A lot of good things had been done, but we're going into a different phase. So how do I take what has been done and take that to the next stage of growth and adapt as I go along? So I'm hoping those are the shoes that I'm leaving for the next CEO.
Tax system and then AI.
Yes, so it's a tax system hindering or fostering growth. And I spoke at an event that Bernard Avle was the moderator for several months ago, where the Minister of Finance brought us together to talk about, from a private sector perspective, what our thoughts are around the tax systems and what's working and what's not working. And today I would say a lot more is required to have an environment where the investment appetite and the investment case makes more sense. It's challenged today. It's very strained because there are layers and layers and layers of taxes. If you think about telecoms, I mean, there's the operational tax system, but there's also how do you expand technology within the country? If technology is really going to be a driver of economic growth and competitiveness within the sub-region, then you would expect that it's easy for me to bring equipment in, the customs taxes, and all those associated processes are easy enough that I can accelerate my investment in infrastructure to drive economic growth. Markets that do a good job at this will take a leadership position and will benefit from all the, and we'll see the benefit from the infrastructure and technology advancements that some of these things allow. So personally, I mean, that's what I would say about taxes. There is an opportunity for us to decide if technology really is an instrument of economic growth, then the tax systems today are not encouraging the level of investment that could be had if we made certain types of decisions around our tax system. And there are things that we can do around that.
Yeah.
In terms of AI and all the things that are happening around AI, I mean, I spoke briefly about this last week, at an event. And my only comment is, look, there are different sides of AI. And today I see a lot of the coverage on AI from the media focusing on the threats. It's going to take your job. Hey, what's happening here? And, we need to be careful. What's going to happen to our students? What's going to happen to education? I mean, that tends to be the focus.
Yeah.
But there are lots of things that AI can enable. And if I think of Africa as a continent, how do you compete with the West, right? And we know we're in a global economy. And if we start to think about the power of AI to make us a more competitive continent, and in the case of Ghana, a more competitive country, we'll start to think about other things that AI can enable. Today, our educational system hasn't produced the same level of analytics, the same level of analytical thinkers as the West has. And we're competing with that pool of resource. Can AI be a substitute in the short term on that lack of skill set or that gap in our skill set from our educational system? There are several opportunities that AI presents that allows us to leapfrog. We talk about agri-tech, med-tech. How can AI help us? And how can it reduce the cost to deliver certain solutions that are fit to solve the problems that we have? So for me, there are an enormous amount of opportunities that AI can bring to a place like Ghana and Africa for that matter. And the more we think about the positive contributions of AI, I do think the more solutions we will see that bring significant benefit.
Wonderful.
To us.
Round of applause for Selorm. Take another round of questions. I'm minded we have different groups here. Sule of Media Foundation. I'm sure you're thinking about fake news, disinformation, and how telcos can help us to shape and deal with that. Nana Painting as well. Any thoughts from you? Maximus on gaming. GJA President, you are fighting many battles. Mr. Jekum as well. I don't want this to just be media people questions, because when you give us the chance, we will grill you. But I feel this is more like, we want to get different dimensions of questions as well. You are getting a lot of love on social media. Here's a few comments. George Asante says, much respect to you, CEO of MTN Ghana. He says, over the years, MTN Ghana has been improving and they're becoming bigger every day. Anthony Amayo says, love Ghana, love MTN. May the Almighty bless you with good health to do more. And then a couple more here. Nanama says, Selorm is a different kind of leader. The man is just the same everywhere I meet him. In the lift, at a meeting, same event, same, and even in the office is the same. And then a couple more. Great job, brother. We give you full support. And then this one is also commending you on thank you MTN Foundation, Jones Della Amajo as well. So yes, I'll take a comment from my friend from ASEPA.
Thank you very much. My name is Mensa Thompson from ASEPA. We are civil society organizations. Thank you, Selorm, for your service. I think that you've done some great job. The first comment I want to make is that anytime I come to MTN and I use your bathrooms are really nice. And for me, I think that leadership is when the effectiveness is able to trickle down.
Yeah.
You can judge by the weakest points. And mostly when I go to organizations and I enter their bathrooms, that's how I assess the leadership there. So I think on that scale, you guys are doing well. I think I think you've left your mark. You've been able to transform MTN from that organization that you took it from. The numbers looks good, like you said, 4 times revenue, 6 times profitability, which is excellent. From our point of view, our interest has always been the interest of consumers.
Yeah.
And I remember getting to the end of last year, we were invited for a meeting here. We met some leadership of MTN about challenges with your network and the concerns that a number of the citizens were raising and the impact it was having on all of us. I want to know, since you're leaving, what strategy, has been left behind to address these shortfalls, because it's very, very key to us, especially we the consumers. I use 2 phones, all my 2 numbers are MTN. And so I rely heavily on MTN. I have a number of people, and I know that they are reeling from the impact of some of the challenges that sometimes we have the usage of the network. And so I would like you to address.
So you're talking about the reliability of the network, availability,
yes.
And all those things.
Yeah, so I would like you to address that, because I think a lot of people watching us at home, I think those are one of the key concerns.
Wonderful.
In terms of how,
Thank you, Mensa Thompson. Thank you. Any more comments from the floor? Any more? All right, fine. Selorm.
Okay. First of all, thanks for your question, and thanks for acknowledging the state of our bathrooms. Look, first of all, let me, as an operator, one of the things we pride ourselves in is service. And like I said, same as your network is the most fundamental element of our business. Without a network, we don't have a business. So service is extremely important, because if customers are not happy with the service we're providing, then again, we haven't delivered on our mandate to Ghanaians. So, first of all, let me apologize for the experience that our customers went through. In the life cycle of a telecoms company, and especially a telecoms company operating in Africa, in this case in Ghana, the unfortunate truth is that we go through cycles, okay? We go through cycles where we have very good service for a period, and then we go through a small cycle or a short cycle where we have some challenges, and then we rise above that, and then we go through. Now, what creates these cycles? Different things create these cycles. And typically, when you're going into a period of aggressive construction and road development, as we have seen, a lot of projects have started, have come back to life. There is a lot of disruption to our infrastructure as a result of the rapid and aggressive construction that's happening. We've suffered in the last 2 months or so a lot of disruption to our network. The effort we have put in to try to address these things have yielded some relief, but there's only so much effort you can put in at every point in time when the load on the network in terms of disruption is at a certain level. A lot of the work we've done has been advocacy, education, working in partnership with the road institutions, the feeder roads, the highways, to try to get them to really appreciate the implications of some of the damages that some of these works have resulted in. But it's a daily battle. It's a daily battle. We've worked on standards on how to separate road infrastructure from telecoms infrastructure. We've worked on a program to try to create telecoms infrastructure as a critical national infrastructure. We've done a lot, but clearly it's not enough. And my assurance to you and our customers is we'll continue to do work here, but we also need others to collaborate with us. This is something that sits within our control to a certain degree, but to a large extent, the causes of the recent issues are out of our control. And we plead with the other agencies who are contributing to all of this to work with us to make sure we can continue to deliver the best service that we can to our customers.
Thank you, Selorm. I have a couple of questions online. Okay, let me take Suleiman. He's the Chief Executive of Media Foundation for West Africa first.
Well, thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Selorm. Congratulations for all the great work that you've done. I think you've been an inspiration to a lot of us in leadership roles in various institutions, and that's really highly commendable. From the leadership side, I would want to find out what has been your most frustrating moment, and how did you handle that? The other point relates to the performance of MTN. I do have quite a number of friends in here, and anytime you talk to them, the impression you get is that, Charlie, we are struggling. No, it's not easy for us. So to hear that it's been 4x growth,
revenue and 6x
profitability, I need to revisit these my friends and ask them, Charlie, why are you people lying to me all the time? But I think as the dominant player, you also play a very significant role in what is emerging as, around the world in terms of digital public goods and digital public infrastructure, where a lot of, previously physical things are now being replaced by digital.
Yes.
And of course, some time ago we heard about the bold digital revolution by MTN and all of that. I want to find out, where do you see the future in terms of the role of telecom companies as far as digital public infrastructure and public goods are concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. Those are strong enough to go on their own. I'm not going to add any more.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, most frustrating moment and how you handle that. I need to think a little bit about this, honestly. I'm sure I've had some very frustrating moments like you would expect, but I just need to sort of think a little. So let me just pause that question for now.
And go to the second one.
Let me go to the second question, and maybe at some point I'll come back with the most frustrating moment. So the second question is around the public good, digital public good, and the role of telcos effectively. So first of all, let me just say, for you to have a digital public good, there are a couple of things that need to be in place, and the world is moving towards that today. The way you organize information is one, and information has multiple sources. The countries that will do really well or that are doing well have found a way to consolidate information centrally to make that available for different purposes, research, commercial, operational purposes, so that things can happen, right? And access to these information sets are typically at no charge, so that a lot of these research elements can happen. If you look at what countries in Asia have done, they've literally leveraged research to advance themselves in various sectors, be it technology, pharmaceuticals, medicine, agri, whatever it is. A lot of research has been at the backbone of a lot of these advancements. So it's not trivial to where we need to go as a country, where we need to go as a continent. What the challenges have been, and I'll come back to the role of the telco here, has really been around consolidating all of this in a way that's driven by a central vision. That's been, in my opinion, the big failure and why we haven't been able to achieve a lot along these lines. As a telco, we have an enormous amount of information, okay? And we're currently going through a process where we're trying to figure out how do you make this information available for exactly the same purpose of a public good. Students need information to do research projects. And you have to be able to present information in a way that allows them to tap into this in a safe environment and use the information in a way that's judicious, but also lends itself to advancements of various projects within the country. And that's a good that we should all support. And that's something that certainly we as MTN would love to support. What we haven't figured out is the framework under which we can do this securely to protect ourselves from various things that given of information can lend itself to. And those are the structures that I will say need to be in place for us to be able to do more along these lines. We have some work to do ourselves internally to decide what type of information, to what extent, and like I said, that process is already ongoing for us at MTN. But even before that, we're also saying, how do we support digitalization in general, even before we come to, digital public good? And you would have heard that MTN has invested in, an academy, a digital skills academy, that's trying to help the youth become skilled in digital elements. So these are different things around AI, machine learning, robotics, all that type of stuff. We're currently investing in that. And hopefully the two converge at some point where all these skills are created and then the information to leverage is also available through MTN, but not MTN alone, right? Where we're able to progress that into a more consolidated data repository for people to access. But a very powerful thing that we definitely support. So.
All right. I'll take a few questions, and if you have an answer for his question, when you add that later. This is from Vincent Miracle. How has the company's relationship with customers and stakeholders evolved, and what steps have you taken to enhance these connections? So the evolution of your relationship with your customers. Mobile Money Advocacy Group Ghana, their question is simple. What is the reason for the seemingly high data and voice cost? So this is the Mobile Money Advocacy Group. The reason for the seemingly high data and voice cost. And then there's a question from Kojo. He says, managing people through COVID, how did you manage to lead this big team, grow revenues and profits, and expand your footprints post-COVID? MTN still runs a hybrid system. How are you ensuring productivity, and what are the lessons to share with other companies on this? It's a loaded question. Let me just repeat this. So basically, what you did at COVID to keep everything together, and how you introduced and still run a hybrid system, which is still working, and what we can learn from that. So that's a double barrel one from Kojo for you, if you can deal with those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me start with how the relationship with customers has evolved and what we seek to do. So I remember, many years ago when I was in very early telecoms, I was working on a project with Vodafone UK. And at the time, the very first edition of smartphones called WAP phones, WAP, I'm not sure if anybody remembers, but they came on and you had applications on these phones. And people will call the call center and then they will spend 20 minutes trying to solve a problem because, first of all, the customer doesn't understand the problem. And they're trying to explain the problem to the agent who's listening, but can't understand what the customer's problem is. It takes 50 minutes to figure that out before they can actually try to solve the problem. Now, the solution to that was to build onto each Vodafone UK device software that allow the agent to access the device when the person calls and then themselves figure out what the problem was, right? So you went from 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out this problem to maybe 3-4 minutes to try to solve a problem. Massive innovation. But I share this because it talks about the learning that customers go through and how that learning and maturity affects our relationship with customers in trying to provide service, either from a service provision standpoint or from a customer services support standpoint. Today, my vision for MTN Ghana has been, when you're growing a business, the first thing you think about is if you're going to grow by another 500,000 customers, you can't grow your support infrastructure at the same rate. So what needs to change? What needs to change? A couple of things. If we start from the product side, your product innovation has to be simple enough that the incremental support is minimized. Okay? So we talk about things like design thinking, how to design your product so that it's intuitive. People don't need support to use your products, and they certainly don't need support to fix your product when it breaks. And you'd see a lot of things we use. I don't know how many of you have ever called the support line for WhatsApp, but how many people use WhatsApp, right? So these are all products that give us a lot of inspiration to say that relationship has changed, where before we basically have, people call the call center to have a conversation. Hey, to say, all these types of things. But now we're saying the relationship has evolved to the point where our customers themselves have become a lot more comfortable with our products and services, that our relationship has changed. We talk less, but we care more. Because we're saying, I'm putting the care and the love into what I design for customers so that I limit the interaction on the back end. And that's really where we want to go. So we're calling this whole thing, self-service, where customers can themselves do whatever they want on their network and control that relationship with us from the customer's perspective. That's the vision. We've taken strides in that direction where, by no means, at the end of the journey on that. But my hope is that, at some point, the majority of our customers no longer remember our call center number. If they need our help, they go to our social media page and put it in. And frankly, that help is to the barest minimum because things work the way they should and things are intuitive enough that the customers themselves can do whatever they want within our product and services portfolio. So that's really where I'm hoping that we end up.
Okay. Somebody wants to know about voice and data prices going up. The mobile money advocacy group, yes.
Yeah. So, the harsh reality of running a business, and one of the questions you asked earlier is, we need to accept certain things about running a business as well. And I'm sure the More Money Advocacy Group themselves will attest to this. When everything around you has changed, it's impossible to stay the same, right? And we've come, last 2 years or so, everything around us economically has changed. And to expect that telecoms company will stay the same may be too far an expectation. So for us, what we've said is, how do we minimize the burden on customers as a result of these external forces? And you would see that even where we've had price increases, the price increases have been at a fraction of some of the economic indicators that have led to some of these things. If you think about even fuel price increases in 2023, the level of fuel price increase or utilities increase versus the level of data price increases, it's a fraction of the data price increase. So we have said, look, we will reduce the impact on the business, but we can't ignore the fact that these forces have had a significant impact on our business operations. Our cost of operations went up significantly. We absorbed a portion of it, but we're saying we can't absorb everything because this has continued for 2 years in a row. And, that's really our position. So I understand the More Money agents and the issue they may have with the prices going up, but I hope they understand that we've actually limited the extent to which we probably could have or should have increased our prices by minimizing the level of price increase of about 15%, which is the last one we did.
Wonderful. Final question around how you led the team, revenue growth, profits during COVID, and then how you still run a hybrid system. I think you entrenched the hybrid system at the time, and I'm told you still run it.
Yeah.
So people work from home.
Yes, so the hybrid system was a group-wide initiative during COVID. During the lockdown, of course, we had to adhere to the local lockdown rules, but after lockdown, each market was allowed to explore working 2 days in the office and then 3 days from home. Of course, you have to agree these things with your manager. What we have found since then, honestly, there are a lot of learnings. We talk about balance when it comes to the workplace and just how you achieve balance. The amount of money it costs to come into work every day is significant. And like I said, the external environment has gone up, right? And we can't increase everything at the same rate as the external environment. So working from home gives people flexibility. We talk about encouraging diversity at work, a gender balance. And, so our females and our women also have family responsibilities for some. That flexibility allows a sense of normalcy, or at least approaches a sense of normalcy that results in a significant motivation for our team members. And people really appreciate the flexibility it gives them. Something we learned after implementing this, and the performance of the business and the responsibility people have taken has reinforced the importance of these types of initiatives. I know there are different schools of thought around productivity and all that type of stuff. If we look at our productivity numbers, at least what we shared towards the end of last year, our productivity continues to go up. Now, this is not only as a result of the hybrid system, but also our management capabilities and our management style has also improved over time, dealing with a hybrid system to ensure that our productivity continues to go up. So for me, this is a great thing for the business from that standpoint. I don't think we've given up anything in terms of business performance, but we've gained a lot from the benefits and the motivation and the flexibility that it allows our staff. And the feedback we get has been extremely positive.
Wonderful. We said we'll do 1.5 hours. We've done 1 hour, 25 minutes. So I have 5 minutes to go. So I'll give the last question to Suleiman, my good friend. Suleiman, you take the last question, and then we would think about wrapping up. Sule, you have the floor. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And congratulations to Selorm. Much has been said about the quality of your... Okay, so much has been said about the quality of your leadership style. What I just want to add is the support you've been given for media organizations and media institutions here. My question, apart from the SMP, what are the other headwinds, regulatory headwinds, that have impacted on the bottom line?
Thank you. We'll give it back to Nana as well to make a comment.
Okay. I thought you would ignore me as usual. Well, thank you very much. First, let me also congratulate Selorm, and also you, Bernard, for hosting this so beautifully in this short period. We say that you get to know you're growing old when everybody looks young. So my first interaction with Selorm is a tradition they've evolved here where I go to speak with new CEOs about the Ghana media. And my thought was, this young man for this big company, but he has proved that he probably is young, but when it comes to the business, he's not young. Of course, I was going to also make a point about his support for the media, the interactions and all that. I think my friend has already done that. Recently, we've come from an experience in which MTN invested $2 million, which is support for the Black Stars. What do you think about that investment?
Oh my God. Once a journalist, always a journalist. That's a good punch. That's a good question to end with.
So let me take.
Yeah, so you take Sule's question on the headwinds and then the Black Stars.
Sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sure, thanks for the question, Sule. So, look, we've had a lot of headwinds, and let me sort of say there are some of the headwinds that are in the public domain, which you would have seen around, SMP or regulatory issues, things around taxes and all of that. But what I also want to say is, it's a lot of the times when these things are happening, you end up seeing headwinds that may present a certain excitement because, such a large company is going through some challenges. At the same time, there have also been very positive developments with the same institutions that the headwinds are with, right? On a lot of other dimensions that are not, maybe not as interesting to be spoken about, okay? Things around spectrum availability and how we manage the network as a result of that. Things around, getting some sort of permission to explore certain innovations, even on the fintech side of the business. And there's a lot that's happening that has allowed industry and the ecosystem to continue to progress. But of course, the headwinds do present challenges to us as a business. But I also want to emphasize there's a lot beyond headwinds that have helped us as a business and that have allowed us to have hope and continued hope in this market. If you look at the investments from MTN over time, in spite of everything else that we've gone through, we continue to be very positive about the market. We remain very committed to the market because of the other things that have given us the right signals of where Ghana as a market is headed and the ambition for technology within the sub-region when it comes from Ghana. So I just wanted to highlight that as I address the question.
Yeah.
Now to end with the question on the Black Stars and what I think about the sponsorship. As a football fan myself, one of the things I've come to learn is, when you support a team, you have to support the team through the good and through the tough. And of course, Black Stars is going through a tough time right now. We all wanted them to do better at AFCON. They haven't. We wanted them to do better at the World Cup. They didn't. But I think it's important for us not to give up on the Black Stars. It's important for us to support and to continue to support so that we can rebuild the structures that are required for the Black Stars to do what they have to do for us. There's a lot of pride, national pride. When you talk about Ghana outside of Ghana, there are maybe 3 or 4 things people talk about. They talk about the Black Stars. They will talk about Kwame Nkrumah, sometimes Kofi Annan. But there are not that many things that consistently over the last maybe 20, 30 years have repeated itself in terms of being top of mind about Ghana. So there's a lot that we need to show the Black Stars to allow us the chance to come back and be the Black Stars that we all expect them to be. And I'm quite hopeful personally, based on the talent that we saw on display. And if you look at the actual games we played and the way Black Stars played, I still see a lot of hope for a nation whose biggest sport is football. There's still a lot of hope for us, but there's a lot we have to do. And I hope there'll be a lot more sponsors of Black Stars so that we can get a lot more money to put behind the teams. Wow. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. I was going to ask Nana whether the answer he gave justified the training you gave him, because you left the most difficult question for last. And I noticed you were applauding, which means he's done well. So you've done well.
Well, if you gave me the chance, I was going to say in his handing over notes,
yes,
he should advise his successor not to repeat that, but to give the money for community
development from the
grassroots.
From the grassroots. Wonderful, thank you.
That would be my advice.
Wonderful. Which is interesting because his successor won jointly with him in 2019 MTN CEO of the Year. So they talk to each other. He was CEO of Benin, whilst he was CEO of Ghana. So they jointly won that award. So I'm sure he's on a speed dial. Thank you very much indeed. We wanted to just say a few thank yous, but there's so many questions we can't ask. It's time. So we just want to just, if there's one word that describes how you feel about the journey, what word do you leave us with? If there's one word that describes the journey and where you're going, what word will it be?
One word. I would say I've been blessed.
Blessed.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed to have the team and the support that I've had in the 5.5 years that I've been here.
Wonderful. I think that's a good one. Stephen Blewett, I guess is your boss at the global level. He says, well done, Selorm. Congrats on an epic 5+ years. What a great legacy for GH. And there's a heart emoji. Did I get that? That's your successor.
Stephen is my successor.
Your successor, Stephen. Okay, so he just sent a message. Well, yeah. So he says you've done a great job for Ghana, and he's excited about this. I want to acknowledge as well a couple people I haven't mentioned. Richard Arthur is the country director for Ericsson. Where is Richard? Put your hands together for Richard. There are lots of people I should acknowledge. I don't have such a great eyesight, so if I missed you, please forgive me. We have cocktail reception right after here. We're really happy to host you. This program has been streaming live on social media, and if you are watching live or online, please like and reshare. And if you want to know how nice you look on television, go and check it out when we leave here. You look really great. So on behalf of the team MTN and my media colleagues, and on behalf of my own company, City, I want to say a big thank you, Selorm, for being such an approachable interviewee, and to the team for always inviting us to come here to ask questions. Have a great evening. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I think we should take some quick photos. Yeah. Do you have an official cameraman for photos? Maybe I'll take the first one, then we'll invite a few others to take. So, cameraman. All right, sir. Let me invite DJ President come. Sule.
Coming to my hometown, Keta, today makes today a very special day for me. While I had hoped today's event would have happened over a year ago, a lot has happened since then, but we committed to the 60-bed maternity ward and neonatal center project for the Keta Municipal Hospital. Today is indeed a very special day for the sword cutting ceremony at this site.
In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen. This hospital is an important health facility delivering health services to several communities within and outside of the Keta municipality. As important as this facility is in the region, it is faced with several challenges.
The maternity ward formerly, the number of beds that is there, they are not enough. So we are happy that the MTN is coming to help the Keta Municipal Hospital to empower the maternity ward or the hospital.
According to the authorities, the current maternity ward has a bed capacity of only 20, which is inadequate for its over 3,000 maternity and over 680 NICU admissions every year. The high demand for services from the facility results in several patients not getting good services and have to endure harsh conditions to get through their pregnancy. This story is not an isolated one. This project is one of our 3 milestone projects as part of our 25th anniversary celebration from last year, and just happens to be the largest maternity block project we are undertaking since the inception of the MTN. It is also our most expensive project since the inception of the foundation, making this a very special sword cutting event for us.
It looks like a dream, like impression to me, that such a big project is being brought to us in Angola. I pay much gratitude to Mr. Selorm Adadevo. It was through his initiative that this project is being brought to his homeland. I'm appealing to all Anglo citizens occupy prominent places in Ghana to play a good part, like Mr. Selorm Adadevo, so that in the foreseeable future, Anglo will be developed It is a fact, not open to dispute, that what this gentleman has done has actually pleased everybody. And we hope and pray that those of you who have not come forward yet should come forward to assist us. I don't want to burden you so much than to say I'm expressing my gratitude to MTN and all those who are here assembled for the purpose of improving our state. Thank you.
I'm overexcited to see MTN helping the Gata Municipal Hospital. Thank you, MTN. Long live MTN. Long live Ghana.
I present to you this wonderful plaque to serve as a symbol of action for all that you have done for us.
The king of deeds.
Maternal health remains a staggering challenge, particularly in the developing world. Globally, it is said that a woman dies from complications in childbirth every minute. Here's a story highlighting MTN Ghana's commitment to helping reduce maternal mortality in Ghana.
My friend Blazak Bebiaku, Bewu General Hospital. A yet to an I or bed no so. Intimate baby, and I'm so better for me to menda. Made me too bed no so, Nami Maternal Kundanimu. And mammy benya back pain, any head pain now.
Babies are a joy to have, but more often, childbirth is a source of frustration for many women across the globe. According to the 2015 Ghana Millennium Development Goals report, Ghana loses 144 mothers to every 100,000 live births at its health facilities, short of the global target of 54 per 100,000 live births. More collective efforts are required to meet the new Sustainable Development Goals target of reducing the global maternal mortality ratio to less than 70 per 100,000 live births by 2030.
The General Hospital is a district hospital and the biggest referral hospital in Tema Metropolis. And because it is the only referral hospital, we are overwhelmed with patients. Honestly, the labor ward doesn't see an abrupt end of care. You know, it's continuous. So in the morning you come and the ward is already full. The beds are not enough. In fact, we do an average of 25 to 30 deliveries in a day.
I came here to take the directorship appointment about 3 years ago. Before that, I was told that the women who had delivered were sleeping 2, 3, 4 on the bed.
MTN Ghana Foundation team had an appeal in the media regarding the state in which the maternity block was.
This is a 40-bed maternity ward being put up by MTN Ghana Foundation for Tema General Hospital. The 40-bed comprises of 20-bed first stage or labor ward. The other part is a 20-bed lying-in ward. That means after delivery. We also have consulting room, a patient assessment room, nurses and doctors changing and restrooms. We have a visitors lounge, a kitchenette for the staff. And then we have 2 delivery wards and a theater.
This morning we are here to commission this beautiful, great edifice that you see here.
I'm happy because this important health facility is a true national asset. I also just learned that this is about the 52nd health facility which has been undertaken by the MTN Foundation. And I say MTN, are you cool?
In the digital and information-based society we find ourselves, I'm confident that the telecom giant MTN will enhance its offering in e-health solutions.
On behalf of all in the department, I wish to reassure you and to state our promise. We will provide the best possible care to our patients using this facility that has been provided for us.
We are excited, all of us, all the staffs. And then as a ward in charge, I'm so happy.
We'll
continue to be committed to health, committed to education, committed to economic empowerment. And I can assure you that you'll continue to see such types of projects coming from the MTN Foundation going forward.
MTN Ghana Foundation, together for good.